Mutant Chronicles, Fiction, The Apostle of Insanity Trilogy, Volume 3, Dementia, by Michael A. Stackpole. Chapter 8. Yojimbo's final comment flooded my guts with ice water. I walked up the steps rather mechanically, lost in thought. The one advantage to having a computer in my brain that controlled my lower legs was that I could issue a home order and it would get me there. That had been useful on nights when I'd sampled far too much Weitzer at the midnight sun, and it was useful now because my concentration was shot all to hell. I started to sort out all I felt and had learned in that encounter, and I began to find it all becoming more and more threatening. Pam and Lane obviously respected Yojimbo, which meant I considered him reliable and at least as sharp as either of the other two. When I asked how he had come to be chasing a Nephrite through Lunacy, he didn't deny that he had been. He just declined to give me details. Even so, for some of the other things he said, the Brotherhood had joined him in at least part of the operation, and that operation had cost at least one life. He mentioned the name Vic, which I took to be Vic Bayer, a former cartel special mission operative, aka Doom Trooper and freelancer, who vanished about the time I went in for my refit. Without confirming a word of what I'd told them, Yojimbo had provided me with enough information to be able to puzzle things out for myself. It meant that I'd definitely done more than suffer delirium from some bad beer. The Dark Legion had been here and, apparently, on Venus. But the knowledge of their incursions has been kept very quiet. Walking along the 4th level of Lunacy, I realized that before now, I generally bought into the theory that said the Dark Legion was a wannabe corp. I judged it by the quality of its enemies. And in my estimation, the fact that the Brotherhood wanted the Dark Legion destroyed meant it had to have some merit. Pam, Lane, and Yojimbo gave me another point of reference. If they didn't like the Dark Legion, I assumed there was something quite wrong with it. Of course, my little fugue made me more than eager to think of the Dark Legion as abominable. The Nephrite had not been easy to look at. Its abject subservience and abasement would have been comical had I not seen evidence of the damage it had taken and survived. The fact that I had been locked inside something that I feared so incredibly should have terrified me or revolted me. I felt neither reaction. Instead, I recalled enjoying Ragathal's pathetic groveling. Knowing Ragathal had a big brother somewhere to which he answered served as a foundation for what really had me worried. Ragathal, a creature that shrugged off a belly full of bullets, was going to retake Lorraine Coven. I knew that, and now Pam and her friends knew it. Capital suspected something like that might happen, so they'd brought Mitch Hunter and his crew to Lunacy. From a corporate point of view, all of this was interesting, but of no real value to my employers. At best, a direct confrontation with the Dark Legion could create a moment of weakness in Capital's structure that Cybertronic might exploit. The value of Lorraine Coven herself appeared to be minimal. The idea that denying her to some Dark Legion bigwig might cause him to blow a gasket was hard to quantify for a profit and loss statement. I guess any corp would see that as a sufficient reason to safeguard the woman. An anomaly detection subroutine in my navigation software sent a signal to me asking for input. If I didn't deal with it, the program would retrace my steps to a point where the anomaly was noted and try to work out another route home. Usually, construction or an accident set the ADS off, but the roadway on 4 was clear. I requested details. The navigation program is really a modified version of a missile guidance system. At the start of any journey, I look around, and the computer matches the surroundings to the local map it has in its memory, or If I am in an unfamiliar place, it downloads a local map from the nearest Cybertronic remote connection. The computer then maps out the quickest, safest route to my destination. It gets updates from the local news, police, and public security unit radio networks, and alters my route depending upon traffic and trouble. The anomaly detection subroutine was originally put in to prevent the computer from running me around in circles when I reached a place where several routes were equally desirable. The computer matched the current visual scan to others in memory, and if enough points matched, it alerted me so I could make a decision. In this case, I was not going around in circles. The computer had detected 2 individuals who appeared in every frame stored in memory. This means they had been following me for at least 5 minutes. Given the time of day and the general thinning of the crowd down on 4, it was possible they were innocently walking in my wake. The computer flashed their images up before me to see, and I decided they looked suspicious enough to run a check on my own. 20 meters later, I stopped at a public phone booth. The 2 men slowed to a halt in front of a store window, keeping their distance. I pumped a Desicard coin into the slot and dialed up the unlisted number of the cellular phone link my computer used. The computer immediately answered and provided me direct audio of the call. I spoke for a couple of seconds, stopped before the internal echo confused me, then paused to listen. While doing that, I took the visor cap from my pocket and jammed it up under the phone hook, so when I settled the handset back on the hook, the connection remained unbroken. I set off again, then stopped when my 2 shadows drew near the phone. Adopting their dodge, I stopped in front of a grunge-and-go clothing boutique and tried to imagine myself attired in shredded plaid flannel and blowtorched denim. The 2 men following me dove for the phone as if it were the last seat in a game of musical chairs. "He's detected us. We should move now and take him." "Calm yourself, brother. He is a freelancer wandering through the city." "But he is the get of the great Silicon whore." "You don't know that." "I can tell, Inquisitor. It is a gift." "Then perhaps you are wasted here in Second Directorate. Shall I request a transfer for you?" I almost laughed as the older and shorter man rebuked his youthful companion. But then the white-haired Brotherhood Inquisitor picked up the phone and started to punch numbers in. He held the handset up to his ear to feign a conversation as I had, but immediately noticed the lack of a dial tone. He hit the hook once, then again, harder, and my bottle cap popped free. The both of them watched it bounce along on the filthy Ferrocrete sidewalk. Then their heads came up, and they stared in my direction. I tossed them a quick salute, then broke into a run. I didn't know if they would follow me, but I wasn't going to wait around to find out. The conversation had identified them as Brotherhood Inquisitors, and I could imagine them being a tad angry about the little trick I just played on them. I cut right, posted myself off the narrow alley's wall, and shot off down its dark length. I leapt over heaping garbage cans and scattered a pride of stray cats on my landing. Their hissing screeches echoed through the alley as I sprinted toward the low, corrugated tin fence on the far end. I knew, given our relative heights, clearing the top would be tough, so I ordered the computer to open up the sluice gates and pump me full of adrenaline. The computer did as I ordered, and I burst forward. The obstacle avoidance routine in the flight program I had online painted a scale over the image of the fence. It measured my velocity and drew a nice little square on the ground that indicated the point at which I should begin my leap. My right foot hit the mark, and I jumped. Soaring through the air, I grazed the top of the fence with the hem of my coat, then landed cleanly as my pursuers shouted at me to stop. On the other side, I cut to the right and slammed my back against the warm surface of a steel door set in the recessed doorway. A second later, light flashed through the alley on the far side of the fence, and a neat little figure eight of bullet holes thundered through the tin. Shrapnel pinged off the walls, but missed me entirely. That would not have been the case had I still been running down the alley, or worse yet, still hanging from the top of the fence before dropping to the other side. I turned around and looked at the door. The computer identified it as a standard 5-centimeter thick door with a centimeter of steel on either face over a fiberplast structure. It also identified the lock for me and the manufacturer of the anti-jimmy plate bolted to the front to protect it. The door, located this deep in Luna City, had been designed to discourage even the best equipped of thieves. Anyone with a mind towards larceny would find easier pickings elsewhere. I, on the other hand, was concerned with my survival, and I had so much adrenaline in me that I almost felt invincible enough to leap back over the wall and face those two Inquisitors straight up. Luckily, my inclination to flight gave way to the wisdom of flight. I forced my fingers in under the anti-jimmy plate at the door jamb, then set my legs against the building's cinder block wall. As I began to pull, I felt my jacket begin to tear up the spine. My shoulders ground and my fingers began to bleed from the cuticles. The computer released endorphins, killing the sharpest pain, but left me some of it so I'd remember the precariousness of my position. Slowly I straightened my wrists, and the metal plates started to bend. I heard a loud snapping and thought it might have been tendons in my forearm. But fiberplast dust filled the air as the plate and the steel sheath on the outside of the door began to peel back. I gave it one more good, solid wrench, curling it up like the cover of a lunch meat tin, then released and hammered a bloody fist against the exposed blonde fiberplast. I ripped the lock out of it, then kicked the door in. I dove through it into the black interior of the basement. A second before, gunfire tore great divots out of the building's wall. My dive took me into and over several piles of debris. The basement stank of mold and rot as the door rebounded from the other wall and closed. I came up shrouded in heavy, damp cloth and wondered where the hell I was. The computer was unable to provide me a direct answer. It ran a series of holding companies past me, then got into some sort of data loop and only stopped when I interrupted it. I had it project an amplified light image of the room on my eyes, and it quickly swung out of line with the doorway. I looked for anything I might employ as a weapon and seriously began to reconsider my refusal to carry a gun. The first pass revealed nothing. I heard voices at the door. I had to do something quickly. Grabbing a fiberplast hanger from the floor, I shucked my jacket and put it on the hanger. I hooked the hanger over one of the loops of electrical cable running between the fiberplast joists, then leapt over toward the door. I landed on cat's feet and crouched low in the darkness, with my back pressed against the building's wall, and I put my hands over my ears. The first Inquisitor kicked the door open, then came in leading with his gun. The weak light from outside splashed a little blue back into my jacket as it hung there, rocking back and forth. The Inquisitor tightened down the trigger of his Punisher. The automatic pistol stabbed flame into the room. Smoking cartridge casings rebounded from the rafters and soundlessly danced across the floor amid the gun's explosive din. The bullet hail hit on target and reduced my coat to so much lint. Before he had a chance to even notice that I wasn't in my coat, I struck. Rising from my crouch, my left hand settled on his left wrist, and my right hand hit him in the elbow. I pushed, once hard, driving his elbow beyond its locking point. Tugging on his wrist unbalanced him, twisting it grated broken bones together and tossed him onto a mildewed pile of odd sheets and mashed pillows. My left hand caught the Punisher. His nervous fingers had dropped before he or it hit the ground. Bringing the gun up, I hit the trigger once and caught the old Inquisitor framed in the threshold. The bullet hit him high in the chest, but still on the midline. And when he bounced back against the doorway, he left blood on the wall. Turning away from him, I pounced on the younger man. His flesh sizzled when I pressed the hot muzzle of the gun to his cheek. "Why were you after me?" "You are damned for all time, infidel." "You're staring at eternity yourself, Ace. Why?" "I'll never tell you." "Your arm will heal. I can fix it so it won't." "Why?" "The Cardinal is my guardian. I shall not fear." I can make you hurt very badly. He provides me purity and truth. He leads me to safe haven. A strange heat spread from the base of my skull and on down to the break of my spine. I could smell the fear on the man and taste his pain in the air. I knew I had once felt as he had, when someone had broken me, and I wanted to be sympathetic, but I could not. The image of Ragathol and the echoes of his terror rippled through me. I tasted again the fear I had known before I died, and I wanted to scream. I shifted the gun around and pressed it to the praying man's temple and pulled the trigger. Even Andy couldn't have put him back together. Mutant Chronicles, Fiction, The Apostle of Insanity Trilogy, Volume 3, Dementia, by Michael A. Stackpole. Chapter 8, End.